We're going to go ahead and get started, so if you can find your spot, I'd say your seat, but we're standing room only again. Welcome to WSU Old Town. We're glad you're here again for what I think is the fifth 1 million cup. Am I remembering that right? The fifth 1 million cup event. So glad you're here this morning, seeing a lot of familiar faces as well as a lot of new faces. For those who are new to 1 million cups, just quickly the format of 1 million cups. We'll have two presenters. Oh, thank you, Keaton. We'll have two presenters. Each one will present for about 6 minutes, and then each presenter is followed with about 14 to 16 minutes of Q&A, productive questions that come from the audience to help our presenter think through what they are working on. And so as you hear our presenter today, be thinking of those helpful questions for him or her as they present about their issue and their company. A few other logistics. Help yourself to coffee, water. Restrooms are down the hall, all the way where you probably entered in as well. Make yourself comfortable. Also, if you are wanting to connect with either of the presenters after the event, feel free to do so. We've got several other meeting rooms available, so if you have additional questions, sometimes we run out of time for our presenters, feel free to find a nook, a cranny, a meeting room, and ask him or her some additional questions that you may not have had time to do. With that, I'm going to introduce our first presenter, Stuart Bogle with AVD. So Stuart, let's welcome him.
I'm going to ask you a great big favor. Please get your cell phones out and turn them to vibrate if you have not done so yet. My name is Stuart Bogle. I'm the founder, inventor, and patent holder of AVD. Yes, that's an old picture. Those are a few ways you can get a hold of me. I'm also on Facebook. Just search for Stuart Bogle and that picture. So what is AVD? AVD is a medical device used for the treatment of viral infections in the blood that uses nanostructures. It uses no drugs at all. The simplest way to think of it is that it uses geometry, not chemistry. This is a prototype of the device. The way it works is one hypodermic goes into a high-pressure artery, the other goes into a low-pressure vein. Blood flows from the artery into the device, back into the vein. Once blood is in the device, nanostructures trap, crack, and release the broken pieces of the virus back into the blood. This is not a filter. When I talk to people about it, they immediately think it is a filter. It is not. It does not add or remove anything from the blood. To give you an idea of the market potential, I'm going to use dengue fever as just one example. Each year, there are roughly 500,000 hospitalizations due to dengue fever, and with a projected price of roughly $3,000, it would generate roughly $1.5 billion a year in revenue just from dengue fever. That would include things like West Nile, hepatitis, HIV, Ebola, Zika, all the others I can't even pronounce. And if you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, he's created a cure for HIV, no, it's not a cure for anything. But it is a treatment for a lot of things. The reason why it is not a cure is because it cannot treat anything outside of the bloodstream. This is meant to reduce the workload of the immune system to give the body extra time to clear the infection on its own. It's meant to make potentially deadly infections into survivable ones, as well as reduce symptoms and recovery times. My target customers are hospitals, veterinary clinics, and NGOs. The AVD would require a doctor's prescription, so you'll never see it on the shelves of Walmart or Walgreens. And because it does not rely on a virus's chemistry, it can also be used for the treatment of animals. Anything with sufficient blood volume and pressure can be treated with the AVD. Who would be the competition? I have two categories, direct and indirect. Even though the answers look well-defined, in truth, they're actually kind of fuzzy. Direct competitors would be antiviral pharmaceuticals. Every single one of those is an HIV drug, and that's not even a complete list. The fuzzy part of the answer is that it's not an either-or situation, meaning you could use both the AVD and antiviral pharmaceuticals at the same time. So they really shouldn't eat into each other's market share. Indirect would be vaccines. Vaccines and the AVD work inversely from each other. Vaccines are only useful before exposure and are useless after exposure. The AVD is only useful after exposure and is useless before exposure. The fuzzy part of the answer is that vaccines do have the potential to eat into cells of the AVD. There are some vaccines that have eradicated naturally occurring viral infections like smallpox, and others like yellow fever, which still causes 30,000 deaths a year, are still around despite the availability of a vaccine. The other is a company I found out, and a product I found out by pure dumb luck within the last 6 months. A group of guys out of Harvard created a company called Opsonics to license the technology that they developed for the treatment of sepsis. Their device works very similar to mine. Blood flows from the body into the device, back into the body. The difference is that they use chemistry. They're targeting bacteria, toxins, and fungus, and their device is a filter. Now, the fuzzy part of the answer is that the AVD has the potential to gain cells from their device. The AVD could easily be used with their device, and doctors may choose to do so as a precaution the same way that antibacterials are used as a precaution in viral infections. I have possible partnership listed as well. That would be a possibility of an exit if anybody were thinking about that. Barriers to entry, this is both mine and any potential competitors. First off would be my patent, but if anybody were to ignore my patent, the development of nanostructures would be the first barrier to entry. They'd have to play catch up with the work I've already done. But the biggest is FDA approval, and that's for everybody. I plan on getting animal approval first. The reason why, it is much easier to get animal approval than it is for human approval. I can also use the data that I get from the animal approval process and apply it to the human approval process. I finished phase 1 animal testing last year. The human approval process has 2 possible paths. The first is for devices that already have an existing device on the market, like say a syringe. The other is for devices that do not have an existing device on the market, like the AVD. Those devices are held to a higher standard, a standard similar to a drug approval process, and that can cost in the range of $100 million. Which brings me to my financials, and you'll notice there are none. Let's be honest, anything I would have put up there would never have actually happened. So what I will say instead is this. Because what you're really thinking is how soon you could get a return on your investment should you invest. Animal sales would happen in roughly 2 years, and income would start shortly after that. Human approval would happen in roughly 6 years because that's the average time for a drug approval. But if I can convince the FDA that my device is similar enough to the Opsonics device, it would greatly reduce cost and approval times because the Opsonics device has already started clinical trials. So why do I need money? As I was doing phase 1 animal testing, I realized this is too big and too heavy. It is reasonable to expect a person to sit for a half an hour to an hour with 2 needles sticking out of their arm and be okay with it. It is not reasonable to expect an animal to do the same thing. I used cow blood for phase 1 animal testing, and I had to go to the vets to get the blood, and I witnessed one cow struggle so violently, I thought it was going to break out of the steel chute. At that point, I realized that had to be much smaller and lighter to be safer for everyone going forward. Phase 2 animal testing is going to require facilities like you would have seen in the movie Outbreak. It's going to require these facilities because phase 2 is going to require a live virus, and the people who own these facilities do not rent them out for cheap. This is not something I can do in my garage or my kitchen. Any employees is needed? I'd rather not hire any. I know investors want to see a management team, but as far as I'm concerned, if I hire somebody and they're not helping with FDA approval, then they're not helping. And I can't see how a CEO is going to help with FDA approval unless they used to work for the FDA. FDA consulting, I've never dealt with the FDA before, so I want a consultant to prepare me as much as possible before I deal with him. And to secure continued funding, I would be willing to hire a CFO, someone whose sole job is to raise money so money is available when it needs to be available. That is if I don't have time to do it myself. That is somebody I would be willing to hire. Because quite frankly, my investment goal of $1 million is just the beginning of what I would need to bring this to market. So terms can be preferred stock, common stock, convertible note. It's all negotiable. Once again, that's what it is, that's what it does, that's who I am, and that's how you get a hold of me. I'll now take questions.
So now we'd like to open up to questions. I just want to remind you guys, this is probably the most important part of this event, is the community giving back by asking questions and engaging. So first off, does anyone have questions? Jake, I'll chase you down. Oh, sorry.
What was the genesis of this particular product? How did you come about?
I had a friend of mine die. He was HIV positive. He never told me, and he made me the sole recipient to his life insurance policy. He chose me over his best friend. I wanted to do something with the money that wasn't completely selfish, and that would have been important to him. So I decided it was going to be HIV. I spent 9-ish months, because I've never done anything like this before. I don't have a degree in anything. I've dropped out of college twice. I've always been good with science, but I don't have a degree in any sort of science. So I spent a lot of time researching everything I could find on HIV, virology, and immunology. And at the end of my research, I basically had the same idea as everybody else had that was working on the field, and that was find a common component, chemical component, that all the different versions of the virus had. But I'm not a chemist. I don't want to be a chemist, and I don't want to spend 10 years of my life getting good at chemistry just to get to the same point that everybody else is working on. So I decided there had to be another way. In 30 years of data, I thought there has to be a solution to this. And so I went back and looked for a common denominator amongst all the different versions of the virus in my research. And I found something. One number kept popping up, 120, the size of the virus. So I knew that was how I was going to attack it. I didn't know exactly how I was going to do it, but I knew it was going to be based on its size, because even though the chemistry is always changing in the virus, its size stays the same. At some point, as I was simulating how the virus is traveling through the blood, I thought, God, if only we could just reach in there and crush those sons of bitches. I thought, wait a minute, we can. We have nanotechnology. And that was the beginning of the AVD. As I was designing the nanostructures, I thought, wait a minute, are there other viruses out there that are roughly the same size as HIV and make their way into the blood? And it turns out there's a lot. There's a lot of them. And I was like, oh my God, this could be used for all of those viruses. And it's an entire class called flaviviruses. This is turning into a lecture. Next question.
Okay, so let me follow up. 2 questions. First is, can you just, well, first slow down, and then try to tell me in plain English how this thing works, all right? And then secondly, have you made any connections or have thought about making connections with some scientists that, you know, could give you more credibility before the FDA, people that may, for example, know about optonics or whatever, because as you said, you don't have a scientific background.
There are a lot of skeptics.
I know they're skeptics, but I'm saying when you're dealing with, I mean, I'm a lawyer. I spent 30 years in Washington, and I can tell you, without being an FDA lawyer, I do know that they're going to require somebody with expertise in addition to you. And so I'm saying you're going to need somebody. But before you get to that question about finding somebody, just tell us how this thing works.
Blunt force trauma at the nanoscale.
I'm sick. What does it do? How does it help me?
It reduces the viral load in your bloodstream, reducing the workload from the immune system to give the body extra time to clear the infection on its own. It doesn't do the job for you. It helps your body do the job.
And you essentially put a clamp on me?
No.
So I mean, how long do I wear it? I mean,
For about a half an hour to an hour.
okay. And just keep on going. So now how does it slow down the infection, or what is it?
It stops the propagation through the bloodstream, which is how the virus is going to propagate through the rest of the body.
Okay.
Now, it's not going to work for everything. Not every virus makes its way to the bloodstream. This is really just going to work for the flavivirus class, the viruses that make their way into the bloodstream. A lot of the mosquito-borne illnesses like Zika and Ebola, things like that. That's what it would really help with.
What about the scientists?
I've asked a number of scientists. Most of them are skeptical. Some of them think, yeah, this is great. Go ahead and do it. I've had some, entertaining responses. One guy I asked is a guy by the name of Vincent Racchiello. He's a professor somewhere in New York. I told him about it, but I described it similar to a process of dialysis. So I think in his mind, he thought it was like a dialysis machine, which is about this size. So he said, yeah, the basic premise of the idea should work, but it would be inefficient because you'd have to do it again and again and again. I didn't tell him it was the size of a smartphone. But I was just thinking, okay, yes, of course you'd have to use it over and over again. Like pretty much every other medical treatment in medicine. You don't get one treatment of cancer and then be done. You don't get one treatment of antibacterials and then done. Of course you have to use it over and over.
Oh, hold on. I have the mic. Thanks. Question with the advent of transhumanism and DIY bionics, do you feel like this is something that you might be able to go direct to consumer with the...
You can't legally.
Some people are. Is that something you'd be interested in? I'm assuming no now. Thanks.
I'd rather not get in trouble with the government over this. I mean, yeah, sure, I could go to a hospital right now and say, hey, you should use this. They wouldn't do it. They will not do something that they cannot prove will not do harm to the patient. So, because I considered contacting the people in West Africa, but I hadn't even done phase 1 animal testing. I couldn't prove that it wasn't going to do harm. So I knew they wouldn't even attempt to use it.
Got another question?
Well, my name is Robert Crowell. I'm a chemical engineer. I, of course, have developed a lot of different inventions and technologies and separation. What I'm thinking that you're doing is separating the virus and then crushing it with ultrasonic. Is that a possibility?
Theoretically, yes.
That's
But that's not what I do.
one of the things that we're doing to the bacteria. We basically isolate it, use ultrasonic to disturb the walls, and then it can't reproduce.
For those of you watching on the internet, he just said a lot of things about science.
I was wondering, could you give us a little more information about your animal use in that phase 1 study and kind of the results?
I used cow blood, and I had multiple sources for the cow blood, but I had a bag of blood on one side, and then I had a bag on another. So blood flowed from the bag to the device into the other bag. And we did that 60 times, and we took samples every 5 cycles. I had a wide variety of results. I had some results that showed no blood cell damage at all. I had some results that showed some blood cell damage. There are reasons that I believe this to be the case. I'd rather not get into it here. It's a long answer.
We got another question.
Yeah, actually, I have so many, I don't know where to start.
Just one.
I'll keep it simple. Instead of going the FDA route, have you considered the CE mark, which is significantly easier, opens the Canadian market, and actually, to some extent, the African market?
I have no idea what you're talking about. From what I've
That means no then, right?
Yeah, that means no. From everything that I've read, everybody goes for FDA approval first, because once you get FDA approval in the United States, pretty much the rest of the world just falls in line. I could go to another country. I could easily do that, but it would not have the same gravitas as getting an FDA approval. It would be significantly cheaper.
We'll talk later.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions? Sure. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We got one question for you.
Hey, I've got to ask a question to you first. So come back here. It's important.
Okay, go ahead.
This is my first time, so what can we as a community do for you?
$1 million, or a group of guys who have maybe not $1 million, but would find somebody who would be willing to do phase 2 animal testing and capable of doing phase 2 animal testing for less than $250,000 per test. The reason why I need so much money is because phase 2 costs so much money. When you're dealing with a live virus, there are precautions that you have to take. So that is my biggest hurdle at this point.
Thank you.
How's it going, guys? Good. I would like you to, not right now, but as soon as we're done, go to Facebook, find KingFit USA, give it a like, and you can keep up with us there once I'm done with this presentation. There we go. You can hit the next one. So welcome to KingFit. We are an online wellness coaching service that partners with physicians to deliver lifestyle interventions for their patients at risk for chronic illness or who have already developed chronic illness. So if anybody's seen the documentary Escape Fire, nobody's seen Escape Fire. That's all right. Great documentary, talks about the healthcare system and how it's pretty much in flames right now. If you've seen Atlas MD present, you've seen the big problems where physicians are dealing with on their own, having 2,000 patients. These patients are chronically ill. They see them once a month, once every 6 months, and the patient never really gets better. So some chronic disease, they're not preventable. You can't cure that chronic disease. But with something like diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol. There's a lot that can be done for that. So we step in, we act as a partner to that physician, and we deliver their patients lifestyle interventions. Now, there's a difference between lifestyle interventions and personal training and nutrition coaching, because I've done that for a while. I've had over 200 patients, and that's for the fitness community. That's for people who are self-motivated, who are active. The people we deal with have dealt with a lot of failure. They've tried Weight Watchers, they've tried Jenny Craig, they've tried it all, and they fail over and over. So what we need to be able to do is understand what's going on internally, what their mindset is, what their environment looks like, what their social support looks like, and then create real solutions for those individuals. So I've got an awesome team of wellness coaches so far. I got my degree in exercise science from Indiana State, go Sycamores. I'm actually from the area though, so all my family's from WSU. We've got a great group of people. The problem is right now, can't pay them, so I do all the coaching, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. We've got an awesome portal, and the first question everybody always asks me is, how are you different than every other fitness app? We are not a fitness app. I love the fitness technology that's out there, and it's actually the fitness technology that's allowed us to put together our methodology. We have our portal here, as you can see our nutrition tracking, physical activity, but we also can use the fancy fitness apps that are out there. So if someone's like, well, I love MyFitnessPal, I've been doing it for 3 years, great. That integrates with our system, and we can collect your data through that. If someone's got their fancy Fitbit on, even better. We can track your physical activity through your Fitbit. So our portal is very user-friendly. We actually had user testing on it, and people understood it very well, and they loved it. We had some university research done at Indiana State. I partnered with Dr. Steinstra out of a preventive health clinic in Indiana, as well as my professor, Dr. Feedback, whose class I actually saw the Escape Fire documentary in. And we went ahead and ran some research through the university. Up in the top right, that's Michelle McDowell. She is down 33 pounds, but before she started with us, she had what's called candida, so she's tried again. Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, and all of these different types of programs, and had 0 results. Even the first couple weeks with us, she had 0 results. Eventually she's like, hey, I got candida, what should we do? Okay, thank you for letting me know. We switched up her intervention a little bit, and she has been on a roll. In the bottom right hand, where you can find Amy on our website, great testimonial, she was our MVP of our original pilot study. So I got some great business coaching in Indiana, and I was like, I want to do a 250-person pilot study. It's going to be amazing. He said, slow down, do 10 people, make sure your methodology works first, and then we'll go from there. So Amy was a part of that first 10 people. She lost 42 pounds. But not only did she lose 42 pounds, her entire family got healthy. Her kids got active. Her husband lost 30 pounds, and they're actually training for their first 5K currently. So with our interventions, what we do is we change the lifestyle of the person. We're not looking to say, go out, exercise, go out, eat good, because everybody knows we need to do those things. We're taking them through a curriculum in order to change their daily habits, one habit at a time, and over time, those daily habits turn into their actual lifestyle. So a big thing of ours is what we call small wins. And what we'll do is we'll add one thing to their daily routine and put that one thing in a row for 30 days straight to create small wins, build momentum, and accomplish great things down the line. So how can we deal with so many clients long term? Because we plan on being the resource for physicians throughout the Midwest. Our whole system is automated. Thanks to great technology, we've brought together the greatest minds in health and wellness and created an automated system that follows a 16-week curriculum. So imagine having stress relief done by Dr. Amit Sood, having diabetes coaching done by Dr. Joel Furman, having optimizing your optimism with Dr. Kelly McGonigal, and reaching your higher self with Deepak Chopra. Well, that's not available to all of us on a regular basis unless you want to read the 50 books that we read to build this service. We bring those great minds together. They have action steps for us. They tell us what we need to do and how to deal with different situations. We spent a lot of time on the methodology of this service so that it could run by itself. We could create a judgment-free zone, and people could go through that change that they needed to. I've got an awesome engineer. We collect all the data. The data will be very valuable down the line. Great website as well. It's beautiful, kingfit.org. Great testimonials. And the big thing I wanted to get to before this time runs out, This is the future of health. There's a research study done where an individual with a home health robot had an increase of 40% on their engagement and adherence to a health program. They named the robot, they dressed the robot, and when they had to give it back, they said goodbye to the robot. And that was the exact same curriculum as they had on the actual computer screen. That's where our data is going. We know how to automate the process and deliver lifestyle interventions to a lot of people at one time.
Thank you.
Yep.
Nice work. We're going to open it up to questions. Got one right here.
So thank you for your presentation. It's very thoughtful and articulate, and you did a good job presenting, so I just wanted to say that to you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Have you tried to partner with any local health organizations?
Yes, so I'm actually started in Indiana. I mentioned Dr. Steinstra, who helped us with our research study. I have a really a golden partnership. We're working through the details right now with a company called Wellness for Life. They have 17 clinics throughout Indiana, and I've just started work here in the Wichita area. So Dr. Hashem is one of them at Galicia Heart Hospital, and then we're working to get in with West Wichita Physicians Clinic because they have an 8-week in-house program, and we'll take them after they're done with their 8 weeks.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking more specifically like a program or like the YMCA.
Oh, not yet, just because they'd probably see us as competition because they have their diabetes curriculum. It's not very productive, but so they may see us like that, but that is on the back burner once we kind of get in with the physicians to pursue those.
They might see as a solution. So,
they might,
thank
yes.
you.
Okay, the obvious money question. So how are you to make money?
We have memberships, and so people can sign up online or they can be referred through the physician, and right now they pay that membership. What we're working on is creating a lower tier service to where it will be embedded in their insurance premiums. That's where we're going, to make it as free as possible for the people who need it most. The big thing about the Escape Fire was that we've got great healthcare, we've got great resources for the people who can afford it. And so the people who really need it, who can't afford a personal trainer, who can't afford a dietitian, we want to make it free for them. So that's where we're going with the program.
So you were talking about your technology, and I saw the MailChimp logo.
Yeah.
And working in software development, I want to applaud you for going with the minimum viable product route.
Thank you.
Where you don't develop a custom software for every little thing you want to do. Can you talk to me, tell us actually, all about how you came to that, how you worked through each of those issues, the bottlenecks that you came to with your business, and solve those with existing technologies, and what technologies you needed to develop on your own?
So when I first started, of course, young kid, big dreams. I wanted to find somebody who could make me a $150,000 personal portal with everything I needed, the works. Of course, that didn't happen. So I started diving into technology a little bit more, looking at some resources and tools. And if you're an entrepreneur in here and you need tools, there's literally something for everything you need. So just look and you'll find it. MailChimp automates our email. Sense Health automates our text messages. Zapier connects our whole operating system together. So when a client signs up, it updates our accounting information, it updates our CRM, it gives notifications to our wellness coaches, and it's all completely automated. So again, technology is out there for very cheap. Our operations to serve 5,000 to 10,000 clients are not, our tools are going to cost us less than $1,500 a month, and it covers everything. Everything's organized. I got a great engineer. I showed you guys that data picture. Microsoft Power BI is a great one that brings all your tools to one desktop to where you can manage those and see those as an investor and see what's happening throughout that process.
Hello. Hello, I'm Jared, and in a prior life, I used to be a registered nurse, so I'm sitting here and I'm absorbing some of this. What is your primary patient? And what's your primary target demographic that you're after right now?
So we say if someone's got 2 or more risk factors, then send them to us. If they have type 2 diabetes, definitely send them to us because we want to get them off the insulin as fast as possible.
Okay. And then that alludes me to my second question. Mm-hmm. What is your adherence to these patients, of them actually going and doing this on their own, especially with their comorbidities that they currently have? And then what does that look like to you as far as going from point A to point B in succession and actually having a success rate there per person?
So our big thing, and of course, since I've created the methodology, I kind of call it like my baby, and that's where I'm way more focused on changing the way a person thinks than telling them to go exercise and eat well, because that's just not going to work. People are going to fall off that boat quickly. We take people on a step-by-step process and we track what they're doing. So we give them immediate tasks, simple tasks. So we'll say, okay, plan this, do these small things. We're going to track those. Did you accomplish these? The questions, of course, are automated. And as they go through that, we track what's called a performance score. We tell people if you can have an 85% or more performance score, you're going to see these results, because a performance score is going to show your adherence, your engagement. What we found with our couple studies is the way we did the automation, most people want to figure things out on their own and they don't want to be judged. There is a few people who still ask questions and want that support and communication, and I reach out to all of them. Of course, again, that's another automated message, and then I can look on my dashboard and respond to the people who are actually responding and taking part and needing more guidance. But most people, again, want to figure things out on their own, and so our curriculum is set up in a way to where they can understand themselves better, understand their environment, understand who the people are around them, and understand what they really need to do to overcome the obstacle that's right in front of them.
Do you need a physician's referral to sign up for the service?
You do not. You can go straight to our website, kingfit.org. You can book a free consultation with myself, and we'll get you set up and ready to rock and roll. There's one up here.
Since corporations are really driving insurance costs and reduction of costs, what's the plan on working with major corporations?
Yeah. We've just started dipping our toes in that water, and that's why I mentioned Wellness for Life. They actually build clinics for different businesses. They have 17 clinics throughout Indiana. We're working with them to become a part of their package. So now they pay us a check up front, and now our services are available to every employer that they supply clinics for. So that's a much easier way for us to get in that door, is to find those people, those insurance providers for the employers, and work with them, create a partnership there. So we are going after that as well. Again, I've been doing all of this pretty much on my own with a few hours from my team, and that's really what I was here to ask. Is it time for the last one?
Yet.
Not yet. We'll keep going then. We'll wait on it.
We got a question over here.
How much does this cost right now?
Right now, it's $55 per month. And so if you look at what you actually get, it's unmatched. So again, I've been a part of the health and wellness industry for a while now, and finding those affordable ways to bring all of this together is the difficult part. So someone can go pay a dietitian, social psychologist, and all these good things, and it's going to cost them an arm and a leg. Even if you just want some high-quality personal training, it's going to cost you a lot. So making it through technology, it being automated, and very little work on our coaches' end makes it so cheap for the patient.
What about individuals that have chronic, not disabilities, but issues with the health? For example, myself, my spinal cord.
Okay.
And so,
yeah.
And so I have a structured program that my doctor has indicated that if I bounce out of that, then I'm back to square one or even worse. So
yeah.
How do you deal or even know that you're possible?
So we've got a long health form process. When a person signs up, they're going to go through multiple health forms and health screens. If you answer no to so many of the questions, and we got to refer you back to the physician because you're just out of our scope. And so there's certain areas where we have to draw the line and say we just can't serve you, but here's somebody who can. You should go look in that direction.
So you have a product right now that people can sign up for. So can you tell me currently how many customers you have, and then what you're doing to try to market and get more customers?
Yeah. So we literally just got the MVP up, and as Carlos knows, I've been hanging out with him a little bit. We got that up about 2 weeks ago. I started going to physicians in the area. I've gotten about 4 lunches so far, and so we're in the process of getting those referrals going. We're using Facebook and Google, of course. Got to if you're a small business. Great resources to drive clients that way as well. We're starting our ad campaign next Monday. So we are just now getting out there. The problem with that is, as I'm going to mention at the end, it keeps coming up, is I can't coach 5,000 people on my own, and that's where we are right now. So.
I don't have a question. I just want to commend you. Right now I'm seeing a lot of individuals in your generation starting these types of businesses. But to be able to actually put together the IT, to start making money out of it, to start working into your direct target markets like you're doing is not an easy thing. So I just want to commend you for that, and hopefully we can talk after.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Well, the most important question is, as an entrepreneur, and he's been dying, I'm going to go real slow, so as an entrepreneur, what as a community can we do to help you?
Okay, so as I mentioned, I'm working with a partnership with Wellness for Life out of Indiana. I want to move that same type of delivery to Wichita. I want to deliver for the people here in Wichita as well. Wellness for Life asked me, how soon can we dump 2,500 patients into your lab? And I said, as soon as I can get my team on board. I've got a banker waiting for this day for me to bring $50,000 from an investor or a few investors so I can get a loan and pay my team. Once I have my wellness team on board, we are full go. As an investor, if you ever felt like you're doing too much work and all you want to do is just invest money, this is the company to do it because I'm nonstop. I go, I make connections, I get things done. And so with me, we'll get our we'll take your investment, go straight to the bankers, get my team paid, handle business, and get you a return ASAP.
Sounds good. Let's give him a round of applause. Thank you. Well, thank you again, guys. That was great. Just want a couple of announcements. Want to thank the Entrepreneurship Task Force for giving this book signed by Jack DeBoer to our presenters. We do have a few announcements to look for on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're going to have a location change, so if you don't want to show up with no coffee here and nobody to present, you might want to pay attention. So thank you again. Please come back next week, like us and tweet at us and all that good stuff. So come back next week. We'll see you then. Thank you.